This is the Lekker Rugby Pod, only on Megaphone Rugby.
Welcome back, Harry. Today we're going to talk about the 3 tests coming up. Quite big ones, international window opening up in the sense that the tests are being played, but not all players are available because of the window not being open. And as usual, let's start with the Springboks. So what are you expecting this weekend? Just start with that in terms of results of the big 3 teams.
Well, I was just in a bookstore this week and I saw a book that was Japanese death poems. And it was a series of poems, haiku, that were written by Zen monks from 1600s, 1700s, who were on the verge of death. So this was the final utterance and the final expression of their lives. And they have all these haiku. It was fantastic to read. I think that's what the front rowers for Japan are writing right now before they go up against Vilko Low and Oxenche and Zachary Porth and Malcolm Marx. Malcolm Marx is a cult hero in Japan, so they obviously know his skills. Steenekamp back in, Grobelaar. I mean, just an incredibly powerful second row to bolster the power there, with Mostert being notoriously good in the scrum, adding effort, Lewitt, Argia. I think Japan's going to struggle at the scrum. I would say they're going to, figuratively die in the scrum. And so the question is, how much will scrum death matter? Because as we know, this year there's a concerted effort behind the scenes to adjust it where whatever was a 9 is now an 8. Whatever was an 8 is now a 7 on the threshold for where you're going to go. Bing, penalty. We're still getting those. Bulls are, Stormers are, Boks are. Okay, we get all that. But, it could be definitional, where every exit and every entry is easy. It builds to a set piece. You're throwing to Lewitt and Nortia. You roll over for tries at will. And then you build a score. And when it's 36-0, then you just put them to the sword and it becomes ridiculous. That's probably the most likely thing if the scrums are adjudicated in the way that they normally were. If not, it could be a longer time to get dominance, but it's only ending one way with Sasha and Mani and Colby and the weapons all over the field, but it's such a solid, intelligent midfield of Dialende and Creel. Probably one of the players of the year, Ethan Hooker, coming in at the right wing, and the Butcher is back. Kurtley Arends on the left. It's a lot of firepower, all led by the sheepdog Kobus Reinach with his perfectly groomed beard. That back line is fire, as the kids say, with Grant Williams coming off the bench. So let's just say that as long as they get enough ball and the penalties from the set pieces accrue properly, Japan will be writing death haiku.
A couple of things that stand out for me. The first one, and I'll just name them quickly. Chesley Colby at 15, Zachary Porter making his debut, and the composition of that bench. And lastly, Franco Mostert at 7. And I mentioned to someone else, this might be his last hurrah, last chance to show that he still got it. I think that after that Ireland game where he actually broke his leg, remember, and ran around on the field with a broken leg for 2 minutes or something ridiculous, I don't think he was ever been the same. And it's not because of a lack of commitment or heart or anything like that. It just felt like he's taken a step back physically, maybe because of something that happened. It's sort of Chesley at the back. It's not a new position for him, but an interesting one. And again, playing against Japan, players that he knows how they play, how to play against them. Is that part of the reason why he was picked at 15, do you think?
Yeah, it is interesting. Colby's got a very educated boot. He has played at 15 in the French leagues, sometimes for the better part of a season, and taking shots at goal and taking drop goal attempts. He's a lot better back there than people realize at 15. Also, that you're giving him free meters, so he's going to have so many times, let's say 7 to 8 times in the match, where he catches the ball in complete space. And he's not someone who has to villy his way to a break where he takes it on and then, makes the flat one. Colby could just waltz, he could just start doing stutter steps. And so that's a difficult thing for Japan. It makes sense. Obviously, it's occasioned by Willems's hamstring. So this wasn't the plan. But if we're going to do some shuffling, actually it's a nice one. It's an interesting one because it's quite nice to think of Kurtley Arends, Ethan Hooker, and Colby as a back three, that just would make me very nervous if I was the opposing team.
Mm-hmm.
They're very good in the air, no matter what their size. You have two lekker backs, but one of them is at the back getting free ball. And then you have, the long, tea drinking cowboy, Ethan Hooker, who just looks like he's unhurried.
Tea drinking cowboy. What's a tea drinking cowboy?
I don't know. That just came to me. He just looks placid. He looks like he had a cup of tea. And at any point in time, he's never outside himself. His hair's never on fire. I don't know. He's remarkably composed, don't you think, for a young player?
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely. I can see it now. I can picture it.
The breaks that will come from Arendse and Colby, and then Hooker finishing them. I can see that happening a lot. I can also see Hooker really liking Jesse Creel's man and ball all tackles, because then that ball scraps on the floor, and I can see Hooker picking and going. So I just think the back line is absolutely lethal.
Just as a matter of interest, this game was arranged to get those players that were in Japan for a month or so, not having played, the opportunity to just sort of get back in the thick of things before that big game next weekend that you're also going to be attending. France, the revenge match. Do you think the fact that Japan also has to travel to London now, how much of an effect does that have on those two teams? I mean, the Springboks traveled from South Africa, I suppose, mostly, but Japan has a lot more traveling to do. They also played a game last week against Australia. I think that the rumors of their demise might be a bit exaggerated. They're not going to be as bad as people think they are. What do you think?
They're lively, but unlike the famous Brighton Beach
Battle of
disaster,
Brighton.
they don't match up well anymore. Springboks are the quickest team in World Rugby now, so there's no quickness advantage.
Quickness in terms of drop speed.
The ball moves from point A to point B to C to D inside the box structure quicker than anyone else, quicker than the All Blacks, quicker than the French.
Okay.
And then on foot speed, quicker than the Irish. The Irish move the ball quickly, but they don't have speed. James Lowe versus Ethan Hooker. I know who I've got. Anybody in Ireland versus Arendse. Colby, no contest. At 9, Kubis and Williams, so quick. The quickness of the chase, the athleticism of Argia, what people are going to see if they haven't seen Zachary play is that's got to be the quickest tight head in the world. It's not even close. And Nortje is that way too. If you want to go to the question of quick forwards, you've got sort of there's 4 players that are interesting to look at. You have Mostert, as you've referred to, in sort of like an audition, like a prove to me, show me, because Ruan's on the bench and it's a head-to-head, like what if Ruan becomes the man of the match, for example? Really bad for Franco, right? Because it feels like he's hanging on as that lock 7, utility guy. And the other one is Lewitt versus Ruan. So I think Ruan's got a really valuable contrast here between line-out captain Lewitt, who hasn't impressed as much and hasn't been as dominant in the tackle as in the contact zone, and Franco, that I think has always been a skinny lock, and I actually think he's having trouble keeping muscle on post leg break, to your reference.
Makes sense.
Whereas Ruan is also a skinny lock, but I think he's added a few. Maybe it's just in his beard, but he looks a bit chunkier.
Definitely.
And then you have the other one, the weird one, which is Andre, the giant, who sort of is playing same position as Franco, a blind side, if you will. And this is bizarre. And this is we got our minds around the 7-1 and the 6-2 when it was extra forward, quick forward, small forward, Dion Fourie, Kwagga Smith. We got our minds around that. Now we're having to get our minds around a giant back that could play forward or back. Like, what's the point of it? I think it fits within the Tony regime, which Andre Pretorius done a great job of saying it's threats all over the field, no respite. When Boks have the ball, we can just keep coming at you from angles and forever. Our bigs are little, our littles are big. Even our slowest guy is quick. I mean, who's the slowest guy in this team now? I mean, it's difficult to pick a slow guy, I suppose. Start looking at Oxenche or Wilco. I give Wilco Low. So Wilco Low is the slowest guy. Who's the next slowest guy? I mean, no one's slow. So you have basically one slow guy in the whole team, Wilco Louw. But he's a tight head, and he's on there to create death haiku poems in the Japanese scrum, which has been like something really regular this year, like death and taxes, is Wilco Louw's scrum penalties. You just load him up for 30 minutes, and you say, brother, take us home.
Yeah. Now, that Rassie never does anything without a reason. Why would he make Andre Esterhuizen number 20 and Kwagga number 21? You know? I know it's a sort
I
of...
think this,
yeah.
it's, like serial killers always want to get caught. They always leave a clue because they want to make sure like, I know what I'm doing. And try to catch me.
It was I.
I think Rassie's trying to make sure that you know that this is not a 5-3. It is not. It is something hybrid. It's some weird thing. It's a 5-1-2. Yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it 5-1. Actually, a 5-2. 5-2-2. No, what? 5-2-3. Yeah, 5-2.
I don't know. You have to have so Kwagga and Andre.
4-2-3. 4-2. No, my shit. My sums are leaving me. Sorry. Yeah.
Kwagga and Andre are that middle number, whatever it is, but they're on the wrong side of each other. So
yeah,
Kwagga is the forward
4-2-2.
who looks like a back, and Andre is the back who looks like a forward. And so it also falls into this, one of these themes is to be the most difficult to predict team in World Rugby. Why would the number one team in the world be the most unpredictable? That's the point, is when you're Coca-Cola, you got to keep introducing new products so that you can stay at your market share. So the Boks have taken on this idea of like, we're not going to get caught. You're not going to chase us and then catch us, because we give you, what the Irish gave you was such an obvious, repeatable matrix that everyone just studied, and then they could deconstruct it. All Blacks have become one of the most conservative teams in their history of All Blacks. Super easy to know what's going to happen. Still difficult to win against them, but you know what they're going to do. Nothing unpredictable. French can throw some curveballs at you, but it seems more like player-driven, on the fly. Ntamak does something weird he wasn't supposed to do, Louis Bielberry, but then it turns out, and the coach says, yeah, great. It's only the Boks that seem to be saying, we are going to put on the field insanity. Like, we are just going to design it. It's going to be chaotic, but it's actually very structured from our end. We know what Andre is. There's no one like Andre. I mean, there's people who play both. Lavani Botia, famously in the French leagues, great Pacifica player. He could easily play flank or center, no problem. And there are other people, obviously, that have the speed, a quick forward, rangy. One Martin Gonzalez, you could see him playing a wing maybe. But Andre's different because he's being styled and billed as a forward. That's funny, and they've come out now and said that he trains that way. I can confirm that I've been able to see that sort of happen. That he, in captain's run or practice, he gets to train kind of both, and it's interesting because I don't know what Andre thinks about it. That would be a good interview actually to get Andre and just talk about what it's like to be sitting on both sides of that. Always been a civil war in rugby. Are you a back or a forward? You don't get to be both. What is that? Cats and dogs mating.
I was listening to our podcast with Tim Cocker again yesterday. And one of the things that I missed the first time around, because obviously when I'm sitting behind the scenes, I don't always hear everything. It was the fact that he said if Andre Esterhuizen played for England, he would have had another test behind him already, having played for England. But now suddenly he's also a forward. And I spoke to someone else the other day, and he asked the question, and I thought about it, and I wanted to hear your opinion on it, is would he be a flank in any provincial side, the Bulls or the Sharks or whatever? Is he good enough to be a flank, but is expected to play flank at test level? Does that make sense?
He's not as good a flank as people are saying he is. It's the size that's the problem. He just looks like a flank. He's not as good as people who played flank their whole life at being a flank. That makes no sense. The fifth or sixth best flank in South Africa is a better flank than Andre. But because he's like a flank body and he's a very, very highly skilled center with great hands and great feet, he is so difficult to play against. And Tim's right. If you just watched English club matches, Harlequins, Andre's been the best player in that league several times. I mean, like, not even one time, but I'm talking 3 times. He's emerged as the player's pick, the best, the most improved, the rising star, and then like the most established, the most carries, the most defenders beaten. He's a difficult proposition at the club level. And I can see why English people who are informed mostly by the English club system would say that would be would have been the best center for England. I don't think that's how we think about things. We think there's a qualitative difference between club and test. And so some people who aren't playing in a good team like Ethan Hooker right now and haven't shown certain things, we kind of go, yeah, but at test level, they'll step up. I think Andre, as a center at test level, hasn't shown that he's better than Damon de Allende hardly ever. I think you can point to 3 games out of 90 where de Allende was surpassed. I don't think it's clear. I think he's got the right amount of test caps, but he's a hell of a player and he's an incredible asset. And he has this one thing which makes him very difficult is, I remember I stood next to him in DC for that Wales match. Must have been the first one by Rassie, first test of Rassie.
2018.
And we're just face to face. There's no way you think he's a back. Like, there's no way. And no way would you ever say that guy plays in the back line. Never. So that's what it is. He's got silky skills of a back, quick enough to be a back, smooth enough to be a back with great kicking. And he's shaped like, Ruan Ackerman. He basically is the same guy. He just looks like a number 8 who would run over you.
So that size of it that you're referring to as a forward now, where would it make a difference now? Is it in defense or, it's just bumping people out of the way? Where would it come into play?
No, it's almost all about the idea of the flexibility of naming a squad where you never have to worry about injury lottery. So in the World Cup final, we stared down a barrel because we had gone too far this way. This is designed to say, we don't want anyone injured, but if anyone is injured, it's really okay. It is absolutely okay. We will end with a team on the pitch that can play Tony ball and win and keep scoring. Because once you stick Andre in there as a forward, it just makes everything easier on the other side of that. And he can always flip. Like he could go from forward to back in the same play. In phase 1 and phase 2, he could be either or.
That's an interesting thing. I never thought of it that way. I mean, we went 7-1 in the World Cup final, like you said, and it almost bit us in the backside. Bongi going off and Dion Free having to come on very, very early in a position that he wasn't used to. I figure Rassie maybe thought, okay, it sounded good on paper and all romantic and that, but maybe a little bit too risky. Let's go the other way and build more safeguards into it while still being unpredictable.
Yeah, I know a New Zealander who says, how is Rassie been so lucky on that 7-1 and 6-2? Because everyone else who tries it, by the second game they try it, they just get reamed by fate and never the box, And the truth is, that's not really true. It's just that, Dion Free played that well. So, and Kwagga is that good at being sort of a little scat back, Yeah, I suppose what it is maybe Rassie says my luck will run out, and it will run out in the worst time. So I'm going to insulate myself from that. I also think there's a bit of Tony behind this. Tony Brown saying, I really like a guy like Andre because he makes the ball sing. And if you can do that, like that try in Wellington, was it the Sia break? And then Andre,
the long pass.
Andre comes to the ruck, and a lot of people don't do what he did there. And when he approached the ruck, was he being a forward or was he being a back? I don't know, but it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
And then he finishes the game by running almost like a prop try, what was it?
Like Richard Bands. Remember
Richard Bands? It was like Richard Bands try, where you just go, "No, I want you to try to tackle me." It's comical. Like, what are you doing, both?
Like Pin bowling. It was so funny. I remember that.
Sit down over there. Yeah,
let it spiel.
So I think that's what Tony sees in that is So I guess maybe both men would see the flexibility as the key there. And then the other part is my sort of corollary of that is to be unpredictable. Just keep doing something where if you're trying to figure out how to beat us in the end of November, you're not getting much from this Japan thing because it's all weird. We could just trot out a 7-1 against France just to be funny. So
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised if we do. Talking about surprises and Tony Brown in the same breath now, I'm a little worried about something that I noticed, and that's that Jamie Joseph is now suddenly the coach of the All Blacks 15. Now, we know Jamie and Tony are like, best buds, Antomy Blaas kind of thing in Afrikaans.
Mm.
I'm worried about that. If we lose Tony's IP, not only do we lose what he can bring to the Springboks, but we also lose what he has brought to the Springboks. It's to me, I'm worried. I've said this before. I'm worried about that. What do you think?
Well, one of the reasons why Box must go 5 wins in this tour is it will give Rassie the strong hand in negotiations to lock down Tony. And if he gets that deal, then I think your worries can be assuaged, if that's the right way to say the word.
I was about to ask, is that the right
But I think if it's
pronunciation?
3-2, what's 2-3, then at the negotiation table, they're going to say, I mean, we love you, Rassie, but is Tony really that gets back into that. I think maybe
Lefty's
this
market
is why.
value. Lefty's market value. Yeah, I hear you. But actually, just a quick prediction. I mean, I don't know anything about the Japanese team. We saw some very funny beams floating around on our little WhatsApp group. I don't know if you saw those names.
Yeah.
What do you think? How far do you think the Springboks will win, and what will be happy with?
I think the margin will be 40 plus.
The margin? Sure.
Yeah, the margin, 40 plus. And I don't think Japan will score more than 1 try.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, that's my parameters.
All right, the next game, you're actually going to attend at Soldiers Field in Chicago, All Blacks versus Ireland. And once again, they've allowed you into the press box at their own peril. I keep saying that because it's true. It's a cliche because it's true. What are you expecting? I'm actually looking forward to that one. I think there's so much at stake there. History, the first loss against Ireland ever. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I was thinking about what I am, if I'm neutral or not. I actually think I want the All Blacks to win. So I'm not neutral, but I'm not strong All Blacks. I want to see a really tough game. I will see a tough game. The first 25 minutes will be absolute war. Both teams are highly up for it. The All Blacks have been, had the best record of rugby over 140 years for a reason. It doesn't just happen by accident. And one of those is they settle scores. So for them, if you say Soldier Field right now, it'd be like hearing Brighton for us. If you say Soldier Field, then they hate it. So I think this is one that they would have circled from long ago and said, we're going to teach these boys a lesson. And we're tired of their yapping, and we're going to put them to bed. So I think there's that. On the other hand, it is the most glorious thing because they've never gotten, beyond quarterfinals. It's the most glorious thing in Irish rugby history, Soldier Field. The deliverance. It's like getting to the promised land. 40 years in the desert, and then, ooh, there we are. It's unbelievably resonant. And also with Anthony Foley's passing the deep chords of mystery and memory for Irish run through the lakefront near Soldier Field. A historic round, a fantastic round, which will be full and will be green. It's a home ground because Chicago is the 3rd most Irish city in America. And there'll be droves coming over on a very easy flight, 5-6 hours. And they'll be ready. They'll be lubricated and ready to go. So I don't know. I think the All Blacks have this. I think they have the game plan. I think they have a bit of a powered edge nowadays. And like I said, I think Ireland's getting too slow. They're just getting too slow. Yeah. If 5 of your 7 backs are kind of slow, then you're slow.
Yeah. You talked about the All Blacks being too structured. Remember early in this video, you said that. How does that measure up against Ireland that's now too slow, like you just mentioned? How does those two weaknesses almost compare to each other? How do they compare?
It works because, let's just take the example of James Lowe. James Lowe was a middling Kiwi. Jameson Gibson Park was an average Kiwi. And look where they are now. They're among the 2 most important Irish players. I think the problem for Ireland versus New Zealand is Ireland is sort of like New Zealand light. And they play so similarly that if each man is just better, a better athlete, stronger, more powerful, man on man, they'll run into each other in the same parts of the field over and over and over. And then you like the players, but, it's just difficult to imagine any one of those All Blacks not getting a massive contract if were they offered. Geordie Barrett came into Leinster and he was just pretty much the best player in Leinster, which meant he was the best player in Ireland. I mean, he's good, but he's not the best All Black. That's probably Will Jordan in the back line nowadays, and maybe it's forever Artie Surveyor. So, yeah, I just think there's a few players where they have maybe Dan Sheehan is better than Cody Taylor, but Cody Taylor's right there. So there's I cannot find one area in which Ireland has the superior athleticism, speed, pace, or precision. It has to be on the system. And the problem with systems, bridging the gap of athleticism is if one thing goes wrong, if it's Sam at 10 and he misses a few kicks, then they're rattled. If Jack Crowley comes on and he's trying too hard because he wants to cement his place, then the ball spills and then Will Jordan runs it in and scores a try. And you're like, now we're down 7. You get blitzed by the All Blacks. We are better than them now at everything, but they're still second best at everything. All Blacks, not Ireland. All Blacks.
Talking about the two coaches, Andy Farrell is off the British and Irish Lions tour, back in charge of Ireland now. Scott Robinson not shooting the lights out, a bit under pressure. Avenging Soldiers Field, do you think that'll secure his job? And Andy Farrell not avenging or not, continuing the tradition, let's call it that. Any chances of any of them being under pressure?
Yeah, New Zealand they can do, what's it called? They can do the Grand Slam. So they've got all the home nations. This is it though. If they win this one, they're favored to win out. And then Scott Robertson's sitting with a 7-win, 2-loss, just like Rassie. I mean, this could shape up to be a very nice All Black year. I would say I would bet money on 11-2. I'd bet money on the All Blacks winning 11 games, 11 test matches this year. That's great. I think Razor lifts the cloud. He's got problems. He lost to, or the 2 losses are problematic because of who he lost to, Argentina, and problematic because how he lost to Springboks, the worst ever defeat in history.
Yeah.
So what can he do? I mean, he can just go and sit there and cry like his thumb. If he can win 11 matches, he gets to say to the boardroom review, okay, you're right. And here's some mitigating circumstances. Here's some things behind the scenes. You didn't know this guy had the flu, and we made a mistake here, whatever. But hang with me, have faith with me, walk with me through the next. And I think that's a winning argument. I think Razor's fine. If he loses at Soldier Field and the loss is bad, he is absolutely, there's a cannon pointed in his face.
He's changed some of his assistant coaches, or one of them. Was it Jason Holland? Who and who's he and why? What is he now being the fall guy for that Springbok class or what?
That's what they always do. Kiwis always chop off an assistant coach, and it's a sign
at the Sharks.
It's a warning. It's a warning to the head coach. It's definitely a warning.
Okay.
The next warning they do will then be they bring someone else out from nowhere, the professor. Joe Schmidt did that, and then they clip your wings. You come in, and that next day your office has been downsized. They took off like a meter off the side.
Yeah.
The door doesn't open as nicely. And then the third step is they have the tap on the shoulder in a meeting when they say, we're going to select your players for now. And I don't think Razor has encountered any of that except for this one. This is the first sign that there is a little bit of a we love you, but you've got to do better. You're our son.
Warning shot across the bows.
No more of those. No more bad losses. Be in every match to the end. Beat the ones you're supposed to beat, that's an automatic 3 wins. And then the 4th win is now. This is it. Front-loaded, Soldier Field. We want the name and the word, Soldier Field, when we say it is, yes, we remember the first loss against Ireland ever, but then we remember that we absolutely demolished them in 2025 and took them to the wood stack, went out back and said, you pick the one that I hit you with. I think that's what they want. I saw glimmers of that a year ago in Dublin. It was comprehensive. There was only,
I remember.
There were grown-ups on the field on one side and there were boys on the other. So that's what they want again. Andy Farrell would be seething about that I could tell that was just so. That was a hard pill to swallow at home, and just to get done that way by Damien McKenzie. So yeah, I think it's a cracker. It's one of the. It is the match of the weekend.
I agree with you. So I want to ask you something about Chicago, seeing that you're in America and everything. Why number one, playing in America, in Chicago of all places? I understand the Irish population and everything else, but how cold is it there? I mean, typically, if I see something about Chicago on TV and I'm completely ignorant, never been there, it looks like Siberia to me, man. What's the weather going to be like?
The reason why Chicago is cold is because of the wind. It's called the Windy City. It's also called the City with Broad Shoulders. A wonderful poem by Carl Sandburg. So read it. It's evocative. It's the terminus of all the railroads that brought the cattle to be sold into the Great Lakes that then go through canals into the marketplace. It's typically viewed as highly Slavic, Polish, Hungarian. Its food is well known for being eclectic, but whatever it is, it's hit you in the face with a frying pan food. It is cold, but it's because wind is coming off a lake that's the size of an ocean, the largest freshwater lake in the world, and surface area, not deep, and it's whipping into you through wind tunnels because of the rivers that terminate into the lake and the skyscrapers that create wind tunnels, a la Cape Town canceling its marathon. Let's see. It is middle of the country. It's called the second city because for years it was the second most populated. Now that would be LA. It is notoriously confident. Okay, so why rugby? I think it is storied. The idea of a thing called Soldier Field. It kind of sells well. It is definitely a rugby hotbed. Chicago Hounds do really well. They're good on the balance sheet as well. It's easy to get to. There's direct flights from everywhere, including New Zealand. It worked well the first time, so I think it's a sales point to come back and do the rematch. That's what it's been called, is the rematch. It will be full. It was easy to sell out. And then the area around it is reminiscent, except for the skyscrapers, it's reminiscent of Ireland. There's parks, there's more bars per square inch than you could imagine. Pubs, Irish pubs, aplenty. And population-wise, at least when it formed, Chicago would have been third most Irish behind New York and Boston. Many mayors, Irish. John F. Kennedy won the presidency because Chicago played some funny business with ballots. I don't know. It's an interesting place. It's a place where people can go and do everything you do in New York, but it's cheaper. It's much less formal, and it fits an Irish soul. Put it that way.
No, you've painted quite an evocative picture. I like it. Would like to go there one day if I have a proper dress, proper warm stuff to wear. The last game we're going to talk about is England versus Argentina. Let's go back one step. Sorry, I forgot to ask you your prediction. Is it going to be revenge, or is it going to be another drubbing at Soldier Field for the All Blacks?
I think New Zealand will start really well and feel like the game's in hand, and then Ireland will fight back. But a 5-point win for the All Blacks.
Okay, not close. Right, let's move on to England quickly. I keep saying James Borthwick, a South African actor. I don't know why I keep saying that. Steve Borthwick. I think he threw out the baby with the bathwater. New coaches and lots of high-profile players not being selected and the likes. What's the thinking behind that? And also announcing his team even before Rassie did. Also unusual.
Yeah, so I'm going to speak a little bit from ignorance here because I haven't dug as deep as I should. But what's intriguing here is the world rankings. So the world rankings will adjust and shift through all these games. And on the first week of December, the World Cup draw will be announced for 2027. No longer 4 key spots, 6 key spots. So there'll be 6 pools. Therefore, you've got to be in the top 6. This match basically is ground zero for 6 versus 7. For 5, basically 5, 6, 7, you get your first jolt of somebody coming up, because let's say the lower ranked wins with the increased points of winning in away. Suddenly a team is floating very high. I mean, it becomes a very interesting subplot. I think it's the subplot of the November tests is the world ranking, because it matters so much. It has become the key, the cycle, the planning. So why wouldn't it matter so much to not be 7 or 8? Ooh, you cannot be 7 or 8. You're going to be stuck like Scotland is so many times in a pool of death.
Yeah, either South Africa or the All Blacks or France for that matter. Yeah, no, I hear you. That's not going to be a good one. Okay, so we're not going to talk about that too much, but Australia on a bit of a high, sort of a farewell tour for Joe Schmidt. I still think would have been awesome if he could have stayed on. I mean, he would really have made an Australian impact in the World Cup in Australia, but it's not to be. What are you expecting from that game, just briefly?
It's always fireworks, the rivalry there is baked in. It's possibly even better than South Africa versus England rivalry, because I think it's got other sporting, like cricket. It's got, like, it's one of the great rivalries. I think also culturally, there's always that, post-colonial revenge. You don't take us seriously, and also they're still under the crown, so it's like really hot, because you're still your cousins. That's what it is. Your cousins inside it. The fact that Australia is heavily Irish also can throw in the sort of hatred of England and a lot of people sent over, convict labor, almost like indentured servitude or slavery almost, and sent to a penal colony. So it's all baked in there. It's great. What do I think about that? I think in the end, Joe Schmidt has built a difficult team. It was the only team in the world in the Rugby Championship that didn't get beaten badly in any game. They lost too many, but they didn't get pounded by anybody. No one ran away from them. On the other hand, England is getting really deep, and they have some of their weapons back, some of their athletes back at the wing. Manny, they have some really excitement. People like Tommy Freeman, who just scores tries for fun.
Yeah, but it's at center, not wing.
Very watchable. It's a very watchable thing, because I think both teams will leak tries, and both teams will score tries. On that one, I'm going to say it comes down to 2 points, 3 points, 3 points or less. So it'll come down to a kick missed or a kick made.
A brilliant Max Jorgensen try. Remember last year, if I remember correctly. Right.
Yeah, but there's form for that. They tend to have those types of shootouts. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Harry, thanks for that. I really appreciate it. Let me get this out. Looking forward to them. I'm a little envious of you, man. Yes, this week is going to be All Blacks Ireland. Next week, France, South Africa. 2 weeks later, it's going to be Ireland versus South Africa. What a November you've got ahead of you. But luckily, we'll be there with you for the ride. So thank you for that. Looking forward to it.
Cheers, man. I'll bring the stories.
Awesome.
This is the Lekker Rugby Pod, only on Megaphone Rugby.